All right, let's dive into a really powerful idea from James Clear's incredible book, Atomic Habits. It's this concept that's so simple, you might actually overlook it, but it is the absolute key to getting incredible results. And that is the power of getting just 1% better.
But first, let's be real for a second. We've all been there, right? You set some big, ambitious goal, a New Year's resolution maybe, you're super motivated for a week, maybe two, and then poof, you're right back where you started. Why is it so incredibly hard to make good habits stick and kick the bad ones? It's something we all struggle with, and it turns out we might be thinking about it all wrong.
This quote, it gets right to the heart of the whole philosophy. See, it suggests the problem isn't that you're not ambitious enough. Winners and losers, they often have the exact same goals. The real difference, the thing that separates them, is their system. So here's the first big mindset shift. Forget about the goal. Focus on the system.
And that leads us straight to the core solution in Atomic Habits, the 1% improvement rule. Instead of trying to do something huge and revolutionary overnight, what if you just focused on getting 1% better every single day?
A 1% improvement, it feels like nothing, right? You'd barely even notice it. But this is where the magic happens, the magic of compounding. Getting just 1% better each day for a year doesn't make you 365% better, it makes you nearly 37 times better. Think about it like an airplane. If it changes its heading by just a few degrees at takeoff, it seems tiny, but over a whole flight, it lands in a completely different city. That's what we're talking about here.
And listen, this isn't just some nice-sounding theory. It has been proven under pressure at the highest levels of competition. Let's look at one of the most incredible turnarounds in the history of sports, the British cycling team.
For the better part of a century, British cycling was, well, they were a running joke. In 110 years, they had never won the Tour de France. Not once. They'd only won a single Olympic gold medal in their history. Their performance was so bad that some of the top bike manufacturers flat out refused to sell them bikes because they were afraid it would hurt their brand. Then, in 2003, they hired this performance director named Dave Brailsford, and his whole strategy was what he called the aggregation of marginal gains. He believed that if they just improved every tiny little thing they did by just 1%, the gains would add up into something huge. And they looked everywhere. They tested different massage gels. They hired a surgeon to teach the riders the right way to wash their hands to avoid getting sick. They found the perfect pillow for each athlete. They even painted the inside of their team truck white, just so they could spot tiny bits of dust that might mess with the finely tuned bikes. I mean, nothing was too small. And the result? Well, it was just mind-blowing. In the 10 years between 2007 and 2017, British cyclists won a staggering 178 world championships, multiple Tour de France titles, and tons of Olympic medals. It's just an incredible real-world example of the power of these tiny little gains.
So, okay, we get the why. Small habits add up to massive results. But how do we actually do it? How do we build them? Well, Clear gives us this super simple, really practical framework he calls the 4 laws.
And here they are, the 4 laws of behavior change. To build a good habit, you just need to make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And what if you want to break a bad habit? You just flip them on their head. Make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. Let's just quickly run through each one.
Okay, first up, make it obvious. Here's a tough truth. Your environment is often way more powerful than your willpower. The little cues that trigger our habits are all around us, and half the time, we don't even see them. The secret is to design your world so that the cues for your good habits are just impossible to miss.
This is such a great, simple example from the book. James Clear wanted to eat more apples, but he'd buy them, stick them in the crisper drawer in his fridge, and then completely forget they existed. So what was the solution? He just bought a big bowl, put it right in the middle of his kitchen counter, and filled it with apples. And just like that, the habit became obvious. He saw them all the time, so he ate them. It's really that simple.
All right, next up, make it attractive. Our brains are basically reward-seeking machines. When we expect something to be pleasurable, our brain releases a shot of dopamine. And here's the wild part. It's not the reward itself, but the anticipation of the reward that really drives us to act. So the more attractive you can make a habit, the more you're going to crave it.
The TV network ABC did this brilliantly. They had this awesome lineup of shows on Thursday nights. But instead of just promoting each show, they branded the entire night TGIT, Thank God it's Thursday. They ran all these ads encouraging people to get their popcorn ready, pour a glass of red wine. They basically bundled the habit they wanted you to form, watching their shows, with an experience that people already found super attractive and relaxing. Genius.
The third law is to make it easy, and this one is huge. Human behavior at its core follows the law of least effort. We almost always drift toward the option that requires the least amount of work. So if you want to build a good habit, you have to lower the friction. You have to make it as easy as possible to get started.
This story from the book is one of my favorites. A photography professor splits his class into two groups. The quantity group would be graded just on the number of photos they turned in. 100 photos, you get an A. The quality group only had to submit one single photo, but it had to be, basically perfect. So at the end of the semester, guess which group produced all the best photos? It was the quantity group by a landslide. Why? Because they weren't paralyzed trying to be perfect. They just went out and took photo after photo, practicing, experimenting, learning from their mistakes. They made the action of doing the work easy, and that's how they ended up achieving quality.
And finally, make it satisfying. This is the big one. The cardinal rule of behavior change is this: what is rewarded is repeated. Our brains are wired to want rewards right now, not later. And that's the problem, right? The rewards of good habits, like exercising or saving money, they're delayed. But the rewards of bad habits are almost always immediate. So we have to find a way to feel successful right away.
This is the paperclip strategy. So this young stockbroker starts each day with 2 jars on his desk. One is full of 120 paperclips, the other one is empty. And every single time he made a sales call, he would move one paperclip from the full jar over to the empty one. That small physical action gave him this immediate, satisfying visual proof that he was making progress. It made the habit of making calls feel good in the moment, and it worked like a charm.
But here's the thing. The 4 laws, they're just the mechanism. The deepest, most profound idea in Atomic Habits goes one level further. See, true, lasting behavior change isn't about what you do. It's about who you believe you are. And this brings us to this really crucial idea: shifting from outcome-based habits to identity-based habits. An outcome-based goal is, I want to run a marathon. But an identity-based goal is, I want to become a runner. The goal isn't just to write a book. It's to become a writer. You see the difference? Every action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become.
Clear tells this great story of a man who bit his nails his entire life. He finally stopped for long enough to get his first ever professional manicure. And as he says in this quote, seeing his nails look nice actually made him feel proud of them. He started to see himself as someone who has nice nails. That identity shift, that was everything. He never bit them again because it just wasn't who he was anymore.
And this quote, man, it just perfectly captures the entire philosophy. Every little habit, every 1% improvement is a single hammer blow on a giant rock. For a long, long time, it feels like you're making zero progress, nothing is happening, but you're building up tension. And then one day, on the 101st blow, the rock splits in two. And it wasn't that last hit that did it. It was all the ones that came before.
So that brings us to the end. The real question isn't about some massive life change you're going to make tomorrow. It's about the smallest possible step you can take today. So what is it? What's the one atomic habit, the 1% improvement, that you can make right now to cast a vote for the person you want to become?